Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Society of Illustrators. Welcome. So when Emiliano emailed me or called me, whatever he did from Milan, you emailed me. Of course, I was thrilled to know that he was coming to New York because it's not all that often that you get here.
But it's going to be.
But it's going to be. Okay, I like hearing that. Excellent. So Emiliano has obviously a long-standing relationship with the Society of Illustrators because every year he seems to win medals somehow, and I don't know. You have a big collection, exactly. So, so we're thrilled. We're thrilled that we're hosting this this event. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what it is, and then I'm turning the microphone over to these three lovely gentlemen up here. So The Journey of the Penguin is a book that is exquisite if you haven't seen it yet, but you will see the images from it. And it was done to celebrate 80 years of penguin books. It is a charming picture book, as I was told to describe it. The Journey of the Penguin tells the imagined story of the penguin who waddled his way into history as the symbol of a beloved publisher. So we have Emiliano, we have Chris Russell here with us tonight, who is the Viking Penguin editor, and we have Paul Buckley. I'm thrilled to have you here this evening, Paul. Paul is the Penguin Publishing Group's executive creative director. Did I get that right? Good.
You can see that.
Yeah, sort of?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, more or less.
It's good.
Yeah, okay. So it's wonderful to have everyone here this evening. I'm going to turn this over to Emiliano, who's going to be the moderator. There'll be time for questions and answers. It's informal, so if anyone does have a question in the middle, just, raise your hand and ask, because this is the time to really, get the answers to the questions for this beautiful, beautiful book. No, you're not going to give the answers? No, maybe you will. Okay.
Maybe, yeah, sure.
Okay, so enjoy.
Thank you.
So, thank you everyone for being here. I'm so excited. It's my first book of this kind. And I'm great that Paul and Chris are with us tonight. And I would like to start. I have this small presentation, and well, the first part is how I come up with the idea of this book, because that's strange, because it's not an assignment that Penguin gave me, but is a thing that I proposed to Penguin, right, Paul?
Correct. That's very
Good.
correct.
So
After I emailed you this idea for it. No.
It seems like something we should have thought of.
Yes.
But in fact, we needed Emiliano.
Sleep at the wheel on our 80th anniversary.
So, once upon a time in Milan, this is the Milan Cathedral, well, it was January, and I come up with this idea of writing a book about how a penguin, like a bird from Antarctica, can become the logo of the biggest publishing house in the world. And, well, I started from the real stories. Probably everyone of you knows the real stories. The story is that Sir Alan Lane started this new publishing house in 1935 because he really wanted to have cheap books for the mass, but beautifully designed. So, and he was sure he wanted a bird an animal as a logo for this new publishing house. So his secretary sent this junior office, Edward Young, to the London Zoo to sketch animals. So I started from this point, and really I start sketching it was 2013. I start sketching this story. I was not sure about the whole story, but I was sure about the journey, the idea of journey, the idea of an audition that the penguin needed to do, and the idea of a contract signed with Sir Alan Lane. So I start sketching a couple of. I wrote like a synopsis, and I start sketching a couple of images very quickly, during this sad Milano January. And so I just sketched the idea I was sure of, and like without any sketches, just with color. And then the only guy I know, because I thought what I can do with this idea before I develop this idea more, I should like ask Penguin if they are interested. So the only guy I knew was this guy,
The only guy.
Mr. Paul Buckley, with this angel face, as you can see. And
We should get this photo.
my friend did. My friend did
Oh, that's
in September.
Where there's going to be one of me.
I just crop it. And so, well, I knew his job, but I didn't know him personally. And I mean, I knew him because I was awarded with the Gold Cube by Art Directors Club, and he was in the jury. So I was awarded for my Charles Slatti Bukowski book covers for the Italian publisher Feltrinelli.
I was offended by them and tried to talk them out of it.
Yeah. So I really want to. I really don't want to. So Paul liked that those covers very much, and I didn't want really to send my idea about this Penguin book by email to Paul, but I was sure that if I was asked Paul for like a business meeting, like, hey Paul, I would like to talk about a project I have in mind, he would probably answer it in his mind like, I'm busy, what a pain in the ass, no. So my strategy...
No.
No, come on, dude. I have to work. I have a lot of covers to do. So I thought I can like buy these books in Italy and write Paul. Hey Paul, what if I come to New York and I bring the book covers you awarded me with the Gold Cube as present because you liked this cover very much. So I was sure that his thought would be the same. Like, what a pain in the ass. I have to work. I'm busy. But okay, it's a gift. So please come in. So that exactly what happened. I went to the Penguin offices. I met Paul. I gave him the present, the book covers. And then before leaving, I said, okay, Paul, but you know what? I have also this idea about this tiny, tiny bird from Antarctica, and this story about how it became the logo of the Penguin books. And he said, well, this idea is pretty good. I can like ask to Patrick Nolan, the editor-in-chief of Penguin, if he is interested. And I got this like email 2 hours later when I was at my hotel saying, oh, Patrick loves this idea. Let's do that. But how can we do that? I mean, where the book, where it's supposed the book to be? It's a book for adult. It's a book for children. Where is right place on shelves? So I said, well, let's do a beautiful book for adults, and that will buy for the design, for the illustrations, and that they maybe share with their children's. So they asked me to see more, and just in a weekend, I designed the whole book as in form of sketches, of course, from the first like page to the last one. And that was quite weird because I really had no hesitations. I started like on Saturday from page 1 and I finished it on Sunday night with page, I don't know, 64 or something. And this is my first book. of this kind, and I wonder why I was so sure about what I was sketching and designing. And doing commercial illustrations means, like, for me, giving a shape to the other's dreams. Because what I do is, I mean, the topic is given from the client, like the New Yorker, the New York Times, or another client, and I have to give the shape to someone else's dream. In this case, I designed by all my old dreams. I gave shape to my own dreams, so it was very interesting. And so, after like 2 years and a half later, the book is ready. I mean, is out. Anything you would like to add?
I think the thing that was such an easy sell was actually very interesting because Emiliano showed up on a Thursday, and my Penguin packaging meetings are on Thursday, and he showed up earlier in the day. And at 3 o'clock, I had my Penguin meeting. And this idea, and I think that's the key thing with this book. I mean, it's certainly it's absolutely gorgeous. It's stunning, but as flawless as the execution is, so is the idea. Actually, I want to ask you: did you know it was our 80th anniversary coming up, or was that just serendipity that it fell at a time when
I
we
did
needed
not.
it? You
I
really
was
didn't know?
just lucky.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
lucky.
no, it was amazing. No, in all seriousness, if it wasn't our 80th anniversary, I think we would have done this, but we would have waited for like that moment. So it could have sat for 4 years. This is a logo that I'm highly aware of because for various legal reasons it would take too long to get into. Throughout my 25 years at Penguin, I have been allowed to do very little with it. It's just always the same bird in that orange oval, white belly. It never changes. And the thing with the bird is it's a very flippant but and recognizable image, and we should have the confidence to have fun with it. And for 25 years, I've been fighting this fight and arguing this point and being shut down at every corner. So when this was presented to me, it was just like, here's a way to do it. It's going to be a home run. And after Emiliano was here, I went into a packaging meeting literally 2 hours later, emailed him 3 hours later, and it was a green light because the idea is so perfect. I mean, it was just what we needed at the right time. It's a beautiful thing, you know. It happened the way it should.
Yeah, I was just very lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and when
Well, it's more than luck, though. I mean,
More than luck.
it's brilliantly done, but yeah, your timing was lucky. Yes.
Yeah.
and the whole project has been a lot of fun for me. I don't, in the adult division, we're not mainly doing books in this style or format at all. And so when our editor-in-chief came to me with this sheaf of illustrations and said, here's this idea for a project, my initial reaction was, oh, here's a huge headache that's being dumped on me. Why would we have anything to do with this? And then, of course, as soon as you look at these illustrations, you're just overwhelmed by the charm and the wit and the brilliant skill in all of them. I can say about the logo issue that it actually became a very last-minute scare where we almost were maybe not able to print and make the books. And I had to have a lot of harried conversations with patent lawyers at Penguin UK who oversee this trademark.
Who also do much more with the logo than we do, which
Yeah.
irks me to no
And
end.
and who have all of these unwritten rules that you never have really thought about how the logo is treated. And supposedly he doesn't have a gender. This penguin mostly doesn't in the book. And then there's one page where he's his name on his office door is Mr. Penguin. And I had to fight back. I said, no, we need to leave it. It's important. And, so these wrinkles do come up. But otherwise, it was a seamless, terrific process working with Emiliano on it.
Thank you. So, for those of you that didn't browse the pages, basically the story is a journey of the bird that starts from Antarctica and swimming through the Atlantic Ocean and close to the African and Portuguese coasts until he arrives to Westminster in London through the River Thames, and he discovered the cities, London, and he had this audition. He meets Mr. like Sir Alan Lane, and he did an audition and he signed a contract, and he becomes a logo of this new publishing house. But the content of the book is a bit more than what we can see browsing the pages. This guy that you can see here, very handsome, and it's Vladimir Pop. He is a Soviet like folklorist and scholar who analyzed the structure of Russian tales. And in order to reduce them and to identify like the basic structure, the basic elements of Russian tales for children. So he like wrote this very famous book called The Morphology of the Folk Tale that was published in Russia in 1924, and I used partially parts of his scheme that basically starts from like a broken balance from an outside situation, a journey of the hero, and later the creation of a new balance. So in the specific, I took not all the parts of his scheme, but some of them. So the first one is the penguin left. Well, the penguin is he calls the hero. The hero left his family, his comfort zone, because of an external event. Like in this case, he saw like a plane flying through Antarctica, and so he understands that there is something more than just eating fish, swimming with his family and his brother penguins and his flock, and and so yeah, and then he needs to start this journey and to have a reaction to this breaking of the balance. And then he needs to overcome some proofs and to fight some alter ego that are anti-heroes in a way, that it can be like the big octopus, the trip, the travel itself, the audition, until he arrives to this new place. This is Westminster, where he's unknown. No one knows him. And then, in a way, he's like image after image is recognized until he overcome another proof, the audition, and he got his goal. So just to sign the contract with Sir Alan Lane. So the last and the most important like part of the Vladimir Prop scheme is called transfiguration. It means that the hero assumes a new identity and a new clothes. And this is, in his scheme, the part where the story ends, usually, because the goal is achieved. And that's what I did. I applied this scheme because at school, in high school, I studied also psychology, sociology, and pedagogy. So I was very on this topic, on how the structure of tales should be always the same to tell a story that makes sense. This girl, well, this kid name is Mariana, and she is my daughter's friend, 3 years old. And she was looking at the book, she was browsing the book, and she was looking at the page where the penguin is swimming all alone in the ocean. And she asked to her mom, well, but the penguin is all alone. And she was sad about that. And her mom answered, yes, he's all alone, but he needs to be alone because, I mean, he needs to be alone to be with others again in a second moment. So I guess that she nails completely the point, because the journey is a matter of discovery. The journey, in my opinion, is we can call like an one unit thing that in a way needs a certain dose of solitude, because through the journey we do in our lives, we can understand our limit and our potential. So so she was like relieved, Mariana, the kid was relieved after her mother explained her what what the sense of the journey was in this book. Do you have anything to add? Nothing?
You're good.
So this is a thing we worked very much on the cover. I failed a lot of attempts to do the right cover.
I think we tortured you.
Yeah, you tortured me. I really hated
To be
you.
honest, yeah.
Really.
How was that art
Really.
director you guys tell stories about in this cover, I think?
But
But we got there.
yeah, we got there. And this is Ellis Island. This used to be like a getaway for like 12 millions of immigrants between the 1905 to 1915. And well, a lot of people like came to United States through this getaway, and still now 1/3 of Americans, so about I guess 100 millions, they can find roots in those immigrants that arrived to Ellis Island back in those days. So I think that I decided to put this like images cover, or at least we all decided that this was the right cover, because well, the idea of the suitcase, it's idea of New York, arriving to New York. Everyone who arrives to New York has this luggage full of clothes, things, desires, and hope. So it was really the story of the penguin, but in a way is also the story of all of us looking for something more here. Nothing to add? Anything to add? Something to add? Add?
I love the
Add-
cover.
Okay.
No, I mean, do you have the other covers to show? Or you
No, I did not. I just throw away those covers.
I think part of the issue with going through so many iterations on this is it wasn't just another cover for us, and it wasn't an easy instance where we could say, for God's sakes, it's his book, let him do what he wants on the cover. It's our logo, it's our identity. So there was a lot riding on it, and a certain balance had to be struck. And I mean, eventually we got there. But I think a lot of the first things we saw were very sort of full of solitude and quiet,
Yeah.
and we needed something I think just a little bit warmer, which the addition of a few penguins in a plane can do. But I just went, it's our logo, so we were a bit torturous because of that, I think. Huh? Oh, that's a very good question. Do you want to
Yeah, I
cover
can say
that
this.
one?
So this was part of the add-on to the story that we needed to work with Emiliano, and especially if we were going to be publishing the book here, is Emiliano had this brilliant vision of how the Penguin meets Alan Lane and becomes the face of this brand. And we said, but if we're going, if we're going to do it, and especially if we're going to have this anniversary tie-in, we need to carry the story forward, and most importantly, carry it into the United States. And so that's something that happens towards the end of the book, is that this, the Penguin has made his journey from London to New York to set up this new outpost of the Penguin brand. And as I'm sure we'll see in at least one of these, maybe in a later slide, Emiliano, that we also see him meeting the iconic Penguin authors over the ages. And so you have him out on the road with Jack Kerouac, and you have him, sitting at a kitchen table with Dorothy Parker, out to the theater with Arthur Miller, and so on. And so it becomes a way of carrying forward this story of the Penguin brand into all of the, kind of the legendary authors who we've now published.
Yeah, in fact, Chris was crucial in the second part of the book. So, depicting, well, three of the most important authors published by Penguin books during the years. So, that's why I would like to open the book with this quote from Italo Calvino, where basically, well, the sentence that I love more about this quote is, fantasy is like jam. You have to spread it on a solid slice of bread. If not, it remains a shapeless thing out of which you can't make anything. So this is a bit the idea of consistency. Italo Calvino wrote like 5 American conferences. He was writing his 6th conference about the idea of consistency that basically is a little bit in this quote. And 2 weeks ago, I was in Milano in a conference with like Richard Maguire and Leanne Shepton and other brilliant minds. And the topic was what consistency is. So consistency for me, that's why I put this quote at the beginning, is like the ability to be solid in a relationship with your job. Knowing what you are doing, knowing why you are doing. So, Calvino quotes may be strange in a silent book, in a picture book, but that's why I really wanted to consider this book a bit a literary work, a literary job. And Chris was really crucial in this sense because he helped to design the second side of the book, where the Penguin meets the great Penguin Books authors. And there are plenty of clues, literally clues, spread all around the second part of the book. So, for example, here, this is the Penguin with Dorothy Parker in her studio, but we can see, well, I'm not sure you are able to see the frame clearly, but the first frame on your right is the Algonquin Hotel. That's the right pronunciation? Algonquin?
The Algonquin.
Algonquin Hotel. And the other frame on the left is the Algonquin. What's again? Tell me again. Yes. Algonquin Hotel round table that was made by this group of New Yorker writers, actors, and they used to call themselves the Vicious Club, and they had lunch at the hotel from 1919 until 1929, and they created this group of very influential people in New York. Plus, if you look at the Penguin, he's like browsing the first issue of the New Yorker. And Dorothy Parker became famous through the New Yorker, but she started writing on the magazine from issue number 2. So what I trying to recreate here is that the Penguin was like reading stuff from the first issue of the New Yorker, so that Dorothy Parker could understand what it's supposed to write for the next issue. And the same here, we decided to bring Arthur Miller in the book, and of course that of the salesman is one of his most important, or the most important play he wrote. It's well known all over the world. And then I like also to add this lovely, like Marilyn Monroe, that was his wife for I guess 4 or 5 years, and she is like a bit silly as she used to be, like laughing, looking at the penguin and stuff like that. So well, yes. So this is, I guess, that Chris was crucial in like trying to pimp like the literally side of the literally part of the book that you can see in the second part of the book. Anything to add?
I don't think so. I've always loved this penguin with the waving
With the flag.
You know, for the great drama of the American dream.
You know, because for Americans, it's all about America. That's why I had this flag. Isn't that true? I talk to people about European things here. They don't know what Europe is. Is that a country? Is that a brand of, I don't know. Anyway, the last part of this, the last part of the presentation, I call the aesthetic side of the book. Because the book is divided in 2 main aesthetic themes. During the journey, until the penguin becomes the penguin logo. So in 1935, 36, and 7, all the color I used are like very mute, very like gray green, gray blue, because I have this feeling that when we imagine old memories, we imagine in black and white. I mean, when I imagine my grandmother memories, I imagine not so vivid her memories. I imagine her memories very like, I don't know, not focused, but like that. And so that's why I used a palette of colors with a lot of gray tones, plus maybe a color that was useful to, maybe a red color, a dominant color on penguin like face on backgrounds. Otherwise, in the New York side, that is the present time, I use very bright colors also to help the narration. To make clear that there was also like a fast forward change of years, because we passed from 1935 to 2015. And this is the first image of the second part, the New York offices part. And you saw many images of the penguin until now, but it never looks like the logo. So, because I didn't want like to spoil from the beginning that the penguin my bird was actually the Penguin Books logo. So I created what I used to call the trick of the makeup scene, where he received this like makeup session before the photo shoot, and so now just in this image you can see the bird with the real like look of the Penguin logo. And that's it. I mean, you don't see the bird with this shape anymore in the book. Just in this scene where it's supposed to, like, I mean, creating actually the logo of the Penguin Books. And then the last aesthetic side I would like to share with you is that if you browse the book from the beginning to the end, you're going to see that the camera does a zooming in movement constantly. Not because the penguin really is like growing up, become like older, but because of a matter of cognitive perception. I remember that when I was a kid, I quote this example, but it's really nothing to do with religion. When I used to go to the church when I was like 10 years old, the church looked to me huge. I came to the church when I was 11, so I was not bigger. I was not that big after a year, but everything looked smaller. So that's the same thing I worked with in the images, because what I want to convey is like he's growing up. He's even more self-conscious about what he's doing. He's growing up as he's becoming an adult, even if he's not becoming like big as person, but he's becoming an adult. So probably this is the last slide, or maybe there is another one, but
Just maybe.
I want to thank you. This, I hope you are not bored about this presentation, and this is, I did my homework, so I passed the word to Paul and Chris if they have anything to add, maybe.
How do you feel about that, Chris?
Yeah, this
feels
like an
This is this is bad advertising, maybe.
That's good.
I don't know. Probably we are close to Thanksgiving, so what use a penguin instead of a turkey? We can try it, right?
We don't. We should try seagulls. They're everywhere. I don't know what that is.
So I'm done. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Does anyone want to ask any questions of the immensely talented Emiliano, or the rest of us? But I really, he's the main draw here. We understand. So.
As we get choked.
Why the penguin on the cover is facing right and the logo is facing left? The question so that.
Yes, she asked why the penguin on the cover is facing left rather than right. Or, I didn't think about that.
You are the editor. You need
was that
to
a conscious
answer.
decision of yours?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
How's that, Elena?
Yeah, I think it.
No idea.
I think it might have been part of our effort to not over tip the hand toward the penguin becoming the official penguin, even though I think it's not a huge surprise. But we also, at Paul's insistence, kept the cover of every Penguin book. The logo is on the cover and on the spine, and that's just a matter of official branding that there's no departures from. And this, for Paul, was a small victory, and that you managed to get them to let us not do that. So we didn't have the redundancy of Emiliano's artful penguin and then the logo sort of just off to the side of it or something.
No orange spine.
Yeah. Yes. I think no. So this was a question about maybe now do we have more freedom in how we treat and transform the logo?
I think in venues that are a little off like this, we always could have fun with the logo. I mean, we internally, and maybe some things that go outside of the house, you see the logo walk on stage and he does a little slide, and they do have a little fun with him. But I think for reasons to do more with copyright, the logo on the cover is always going to be the logo in the circle. I mean, sometimes we take them out of the circle, you have to fight for it. But he's always going to be that logo. He's never going to be saluting or doing anything with it. It's always going to be that guy. I'm pretty sure that's not going to change.
Well, I noticed like a big mistake that it's totally on me. That, well, not really, but no one noticed it, so I'm happy about that. That on the cover, the penguin has like orange feet, but inside the book, did you?
No.
Did you
but
notice?
I think I now know where you're going with this.
But in the book, inside the book, the penguin really has like black feet, but
That's just a gift for the attentive reader.
yeah, exactly, for the attentive readers.
Yes, second row. Why? Yeah, question about why this particular penguin, the imperial penguin, in terms of the brand or in terms of why? I don't actually know how of. From the penguin historical side, I don't know. I have to say, did you gravitate toward this over other kinds of?
I don't know. I don't know. We should ask to the guy from Pentagram who renewed the logo in 2003.
Yeah, he didn't.
Tweaked it like that much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, there was. Okay, was there someone else up front? Yes. Yeah.
We don't know.
I think the penguin becomes more and more human as the book moves on. He takes on elements. He gets dressed, obviously.
Well, I guess because we needed to. I mean, I needed to tell the story of a bird that was also our story, the story of all of us. I mean, what I wanted to do is to tell a journey that every one of us needs to take to achieve his goal in a way. So giving, I mean, I don't think he's really is that human. I mean, eventually I could. He looks every time a bird. I mean, I didn't design like big eyes like a Disney cartoon. He's never a cartoon in the story. I guess that he's always a bird. So it. I mean, I want to tell the story of all of us. I needed to force some like things of the shape of the bird, like shaking the hand with Sir Alan Lane or stuff like that. But I tried to respect like visually the shape of the penguin more than I could. I mean,
Yeah, and there's also a way in which I think it works as a really nice narrative device where from the beginning you have this penguin who, whether or not he is longing to be human, is clearly kind of longing for something else, and you have that he's tearfully watching this plane overhead early on, and you see the reflection in his eye, and that's this hint that, you know, he's kind of been a penguin apart already, and at the first signs that there's something that he should be chasing after, he then takes his deep plunge. And so, I don't know, I always thought that was a particularly effective way to launch the story.
yeah, I agree. I have another. I have a question to myself, like, why this book?
It's unconventional, but we'll allow it.
Well, why this book has no words? Oh, that's an interesting question. Um, the first reason because the book has no words is because English is not my language. No, I'm kidding you. The thing because this is a silent book is because I believe that that's a strange project because this is not exactly a book for adults, but this is not exactly a picture book. So well what text is in a book? Text is a guideline that in a way for me can be a cage for the reader. I mean, I write for you the text. You're gonna. It's supposed you to follow the text. You and I am able to pass what I want to communicate to you through the text. What if I don't put any words on the book and I just put some clues and you can like see in those clues whatever you want to see because I mean I guess that the narrative path is quite clear, but if I do not if I'm able not giving you like strict guidelines, there is more dialogue between me and the reader because you can see basically whatever you want in the book. Well, not exactly whatever you want, but you can project inside the book things that belongs to you. Thank you for the question. And thank you for the answer.
I would add, I think that's a big part of why this book works on multi-levels, being whether you're an adult or who knows the brand or whether a kid who frankly doesn't care about brands, let alone Penguin. The words may have dumbed that down a little bit. Can we go back to the last slide? I mean, just the angle of the bird, that's sort of the sign of really amazing work. Just the simplicity and the subtlety of that sort of thing, I think would, a less accomplished illustrator would miss something as simple as that little piece of body language.
All right, anyone else? Yes, Central.
Medium, like technique. It's computer. Yeah, it's computer. I used
Did you draw it first before
also the sketches that you saw at the beginning. They are made out of computer because my only work is.
You passed.
Hi, Paul.
Back there.
Hi, Paul. So, hi, Paul. So, all.
Piece of pencil, yeah, no?
No, they are all made out of computer. Yeah, well, with the tablet, the Wacom Cintiq tablet, and it's very easy to, like, have the feeling you are like handmade, doing thing in an handmade way.
what program? Illustrator?
No. There is no vector traces here. It's just like handmade. It's Corel Painter.
Photoshop?
Corel Painter. Corel Painter is not very popular here. It's, I guess, a great software. I'm a beta tester, and it's for a long time. And it has a lot of great brushes, and it's, I guess, it's developed from Canadian engineers. And I'm so sorry for them because they were never able to like compete with Photoshop. But that's really a great software. I mean, you can actually paint in a so natural way, much better, way better than Photoshop.
Doing this book where you were kind of the author of it was different than your like editorial work where it's much quicker.
Yeah, what I was saying before is the fact that working as commercial illustrators means that the clients in general give you a topic and you have to interpret this topic. So it's not completely your stuff, because there is a mediation between the topic and the way you are able to represent this topic. And of course, something of you is in the final piece you are producing, but not everything. So, as I was saying before, the difference was that I had no boundaries here. I had no limitations, because I really, well, had this big opportunity to design whatever I want to design. And the most difficult thing is that you have to give yourself guidelines, because the risk is that you get lost in the lack of limits. Because if you have a client, I mean, if when I work for the New Yorker, I have a client, I have an art director, and he or she immediately gives me feedback. But here, before I received feedback from Penguin, I needed to produce like the whole story, at least in form of sketches.
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
The sketch part, I did all these sketches in just a weekend, and that was a bit crazy on the on this side, because we received, well, I received the contract. We were able to set everything up, I guess, in April.
Yeah, but how many drawings did you leave me with to go upstairs and pitch?
I just
this?
leave you
Like 8 or so.
Not that many.
no, like just 3, 4 very very bad sketches. You are talking about the first time I met you. Yeah. I just
And so then the next step was
this
those-
one.
Yeah, I mean, by the time it came to me, I think there were still only about 8 or so.
Yeah.
But the key ones were there. This was there, this early version of the audition.
Yeah, exactly.
Which remains one of my favorites, especially the skunk. But
Yeah.
I would be less proud to work at skunk books.
So the whole coloring part was done like in a month and a half, because we needed to send to the print, and we had some delays. So everything, mostly the book you can see now, was done like really in a month and a half, not more. So I just put myself in a cocoon situation, like, I don't know, put the phone in the plane mode and switching the internet off, like throwing my router out of the window, so no distractions. And I did this book, well, really fast, but not fast because of a lack of accuracy, but fast because I really did just the book for a month and a half and nothing more, obsessively. So I'm still taking lithium to balance.
It did happen very, very quickly.
Yeah.
It was, project. It was done rapidly.
Yeah.
All right, anyone else? Yep. She asked if we were waiting to release it for the anniversary, and kind of the timeline between 2013 and now, I
We
think.
didn't see it till 2014. I think June of 2014, right?
We waited, I guess we waited, yeah.
But I think you met with me in June of 2014 to.
No,
present it?
13.
Was it 13?
13. Because
Yeah.
I guess that most difficult part was really to understand, well, what shape to give to the book, where it's supposed to put on the shelves. And I mean, we tried to give a shape to the project, and it took, well, long time to do that. But once we decided, it was very easy to go ahead with all the images. We did in first place with Chris, because I produced more sketches than those you can see as final illustrations in the book. And with Chris, we try to understand which image it's better to like delete from the final project, or which other it was better to add. And he was crucial because he was able to give a sense to the narration. I was not able because probably I was too inside like the book thing, and so yeah.
Although, I mean, you did have a very clear sense of the story you were telling. It's, I mean, I don't even think I've been to an event for a novelist where they're talking about how their reading of Vladimir Prop was informing their conception of the book. But yeah, no, so for us, it's true. A big part of it was really hashing out what the arc, especially from the midpoint to the end, was going to be, and which authors we were going to feature. And, originally there was this question of, how do we bridge the time gap? We debated many solutions to this, and should it be that this is sort of the next generation of penguins, and all of these different things we tried, and I think we landed on something appropriately kind of simple and elegant that works without raising too many questions in the end. But that was a big part of it, and then really we had the final vision. And then it was just a sprint where, as you said, Emiliano holed up and then was just producing images at an astonishing rate. and then we had it, in time for what for us is the sort of fall artsy gift book season, and we're glad to have it now. I don't know. Final question of the night, anyone? Doesn't have to be.
Remember that if we have no question left, we can go to the bar upstairs.
Yeah.